Hey guys, today we're back in the garage and we are going to be doing a full service on a Honda Talon 1000R. This will also work for the X. It's going to be oil, filters, differentials, and brakes all the way around. Well, first things first, let's get the back of this thing opened up here. Because we got to do the air filter as well. I forgot. But, also, right here is where you fill your oil at. Alright, so to change this air filter, you're going to need a 5mm Allen wrench. I got one on my Impact. But all you got to do is pop all these off, and then under there will be the air filter. And it's got like 6 or 7, maybe it's 8 Allen head bolts. Be careful not to drop. There's 3 of them that's got a holder, and the rest of them don't lose those, because you'll have to find them somewhere. And that right there is the air filter, and this has been changed once before. I'll have to look and see what the mileage is on this thing, but yeah, these air filters and these get really dirty. Here's what a new one looks like, way cleaner. Here's what I was telling you about. There was 3 of them that are in retainers, and the rest of them aren't. And you don't want to lose these little spacer washers that go in here. And if you buy the actual Honda filter, it gives you this new neoprene gasket for the lid here. And all you got to do is take like a screwdriver and pry the old one out and then shove this one down in. So when you go underneath this thing to drop the oil out, you're going to be met with this engine oil. And if you look here, that one says it too. There's actually 2 drain plugs on this. There's one small one right in here. I'm going to try to get this on camera. And there's this larger one right here. And those are both for the engine. And then, while we're under here, we're going to go ahead and move one up. Back there was the engine plugs. You come up here, and this here's your sub-transmission. It's basically a transfer case, if you ask me. But it has a drain plug right there. And all it does is take Honda engine oil as well, but it is a separate unit from the engine. It has to be filled separately. Well, while I've got the drain pan out and already laying down here, on the rear differential, if you look right in the back, that bottom one right there is your drain, and that there's your level check. And up top, you gotta look kind of up into here, right there. That there is your fill. So these 2 are 10mm. You take the drain out, drain it, put it back in, tighten it up, pull this bolt out, and leave it out for a minute. Then you go up top and you start putting oil in. And when the oil reaches this level and starts running out, that means it's full. You put this plug back in, put that plug back in, and you're done. That's how much oil goes in it. So I'm just going to start at the bottom up with putting fluids in. And as you can see, there's that level check plug that I was telling you about. And up here behind this is where I'm putting the oil in. Honda makes their own. All it is 80-90 weight. But it's in a nice little bottle. So I'm just going to put it in until you see it come out of that hole right there. Once you see it run out like that, she's full. So on the front differential, it's slightly the same concept, but slightly different. On the front, the fill is also your check plug. So when you take that out, after you drain everything, you put the oil in that, and once it reaches the full mark, it runs out that exact hole. And then you just put the plug back in. You're done with that. Next, we're going to be changing the oil filters. Top one here is your engine oil. Bottom one is for your transmission. And they're both the same way. Just those 10mm bolts. Pull them out. They've got O-rings on the lids. Filters come out. New filters go back in. There is a spring inside there. Be careful for that. I will do the full video on it. So. This right here is that spring I was telling you about. There is one on the engine oil as well. And for those of you that have a Talon X, you won't have to deal with this bar right here in the way. This is only on the R's. New oil filter, O-ring side in. New O-ring for the cap. Just put that on, make sure. Sometimes this spring wants to fight you on putting the cap back on. But I'm stubborn. Remember that spring I just told you, I told you about? It fell in the oil down here, I saw it. So make sure you get that. Again, going back in, O-ring side in with the filter. Make sure you get that spring. And if you want, I like to spray stuff down with some brake clean. This way, after I'm all done, I put pressure to it, I can see if it's leaking. So next, we'll be putting oil back in the sub-transmission. That's it, right up inside here. Right here's a dipstick for it. Unfortunately, that's also where you've got to put the oil in. And it's kind of a pain to get to. Not 100% sure, but I think it holds right around 3 quarts. I'm just going to have to put it in and keep checking it as we go. So as I've mentioned in my other videos, if you guys ain't got a suction gun, you kind of need one if you're going to do this kind of stuff. Makes life really easy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and check it as I go, like I said. Not on the dipstick. Like I said, I think it holds like right at 3 quarts. I'm just going to put some more in here till I get full. So I got that just a teensy bit over the full mark, which is that'll be fine. That'll be perfect. I'm not exactly sure how much oil that was. I'm thinking it was a little bit more closer to 2 quarts than 3, so somewhere in that area. Like I said, just check it as you go. So then for putting in the engine oil, like I said, there's a nice plug up here to put it in. But down under here, right there on the side of your engine, that's your dipstick. And that thing's like 6 inches long. Again, on adding the engine oil, I can't remember exactly what it does take. Just keep putting it in and checking it. I'm thinking it's somewhere in the vicinity of 5 quarts on this bike. So I'm just going to add some, check it, until I figure it out here. So 5 quarts got me right on the bottom of the dipstick. So I'm going to dump 5.5 in it, and that should be good. And this here's what I meant by that dipstick was really long. It's actually pushing like 8 to 10 inches. And on these Hondas, at least what I've always done on spoilers and what it used to be, was when you do check your oil, you just set the dipstick down on there. You don't screw it down in. And right there's where we want to be. So now that I've got everything full and tightened back up, I'm going to go ahead and start this thing, let it warm up for a minute. And I'm going to recheck that oil because I have a feeling once it does fill the filter housings and stuff, it might need just to smell more. So I'll go from there. We're just going to walk around these filter housings, make sure there ain't nothing leaking. And just as I suspected, after I checked that, after I let it run, it's right on the very bottom of the stick. I'm going to dump an extra 1/2 quart in this and it should be good to go. So next up, we're going to be changing the brakes. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the rear wheels off and I'll get started from there. So on these Honda Talons, the brake pads are side specific only for the reason of these squealers. So I'll have to figure out which one goes here. But anyhow, under here you're going to find 2 12mm bolts. And you may end up having to get a 17mm wrench to hold that nut. Caliper pulls off. I always like to try to dig all the mud out of it best I can. And these brake pads, actually, they're only about halfway worn, but the guy wanted new brakes on it. See, here's the new one versus this old one here, but we're running them. These pads just slide right back in the spots. As long as these this hardware ain't all galled up and rusty or anything, they're good to go. Pop right back in. And for me, I always like to cheat. I just got a big pair of channel locks. This is what I always shove brake pistons back in with. It's real simple and easy. And just like that. Again, I try to make sure I get all the mud out. And go back on with it. And that's simple as that for the rear ones. Put the bolts back in, tighten them up. So the only difference whenever you go to change your front ones between it and the rear is the fact that the front are dual piston calipers, meaning there's 2 pistons that come out of them. Here's what I mean by that. Sometimes whenever you shove on this one, the other one will pop up a little bit. You just usually got to go slow. And that's the only difference between it and the rear. Pads are a little bit bigger up front. And like that, your front brakes are done. Put your tire back on, you're good to go. Don't forget, after you change brake pads, you always get in and push your brake pedal a couple times. Because if you just jump in, put this thing in gear, and take off, the first time you hit your pedals, you're not going to have any brakes. So make sure you always pump them up first. So that there was the full complete service on a Honda Talon. That was the air filter, oil filters, oil, transmission, differentials, and brakes. Everything covered. If you guys like videos like this, go check out the rest of my channel. Don't forget, I do weekly video drops. Thanks for watching.